constructive and encourages everyone to consider youth as part of our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now take the next contributor, which is Guatemala. Guatemala, the floor is yours. You can take the floor. Thank you very much for withdrawing Israel. We should also take note of the fact that we can adopt the resolution by acclamation in order to save time. And the statements are very good, but we'll also just have to receive them. But after acclamation, I think that's what we're encouraging. Thank you. The next contributor is United Nations, that's UNEP. No, sorry, Document Center for Species Protection. Sorry, fortunately we have the last one being Israel. Israel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very briefly, we would like to express our full support for the content of the resolution as was read out by the representative of the Youth Forum. We have absolutely no objection to the content, and as I said, we fully support it. However, submission of a resolution in that form is not acceptable according to Rule 20 of the Rules of Procedure. So in keeping with the rules, and in order not to create an exception to the rules as much as we are in favor of the content, we would suggest that according to Rule 20, Paragraph 3, it has to be presented at least one session preceding the session at which it is discussed. So we would request that the Chair keep to Rule 20 and be sure that this resolution is presented according to the rule. And again, I wish to reiterate, we support fully the content of the resolution. It's just the method of presentation which we would not be happy to see a precedent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Israel. We could obviously, as a plenary and as a COP, do one of the following. Circulate the resolution for consideration perhaps at the end of a COP for parties to be able to look at it and have these a few days to look at it, or we could later refer it to the Bureau as also proposed by the delegations. I think the first option could be fine. Israel says yes, and if they agree, I think that would then be the route that we take. It will be circulated. We will then bring it back to plenary later, a few days later when we close. Thank you very much. That then I think settles the matter related to the youth matters. I take it that the conference wishes to take note of the document. As proposed now towards the route that we agreed to. If I don't see anything, any taker, it is so decided. Thank you very much. I now give the floor Thank you very much, Excellencies. We are almost coming to an end, but before we adjourn, would like to request South Africa to do a short announcement from where they are. I'm going to hand over to South Africa. South Africa, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Ministers, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. South Africa, as the host country, would like to invite all delegates to a host country reception, which will take place directly after plenary at 17:30, almost. It will be hosted in Alice Lane, just behind the Convention Center. It will take the form of a street carnival, considering that during the opening ceremony we had outlined that South Africa is celebrating Heritage Day today. The function is co-hosted with the City of Johannesburg. The Executive Mayor of the city, Mayor Mashaba, is here. He joined. But South Africa would like to request the Chairperson to allow the South African Tourism Minister, Minister Derek Hanekom, to be afforded an opportunity to address this gathering as the last item on the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is allowed, Minister Derek Hanekom.
Well, thank you very much. Chairperson of CITES COP17, South African Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, our host minister from the South African Ministry of Environmental Affairs, all of you, delegates, heads of delegations. You know, this is a United Nations event, and you have interventions and many interventions, and they are always read. But I am the Minister of Tourism, so I just need to add to the warm welcome that you have already received, so I don't have to read an intervention. I have to say to you, though, to add to the welcome that you've already received, this is hosted in the city of Johannesburg, this city where we are right now. The mayor is here, so I'm speaking both on behalf of myself and my government as the Minister of Tourism and the mayor of the city of Johannesburg in just warmly welcoming all of you to both the city of Johannesburg and the beautiful country of South Africa, and of course inviting you to join in what is going to be a very vibrant carnival immediately as you get up and as you go out of this room. You are here from all over the world, from New Zealand and Malaysia and Fiji and India and China and Norway and Finland and Canada and the USA and Mexico and Peru and Ghana and Morocco and Egypt, and you're here from every corner of the planet. And we'd love to have you here, and for me it's a huge honor to welcome you to our beautiful country. But you're here for a common purpose. You're here because you care about this planet. You live in every corner of the planet, you care about it, and you care in particular about life on this planet, the living things on this planet of ours. So we really welcome you. You are here on a very special occasion for South Africa. Today is a public holiday in South Africa called National Heritage Day. And today we celebrate our liberation heritage, our cultural heritage, and our natural heritage. We celebrate diversity. When you go out of here, you will see people in beautiful attire. All of our national costumes from all over the country. It's a special day, but when we celebrate diversity, we celebrate unity in diversity. And when you are here from all over the world, you are bringing a special diversity to South Africa, and we celebrate unity. So what we would love to see is a world united in its splendid diversity, in its cultural diversity, in its linguistic and religious diversity. We need to celebrate that. But a very important thing, when we welcome you to South Africa, we are welcoming you not to a foreign country, we are welcoming you to your own home. This is your home. Every year on National Heritage Day, we have an event at a World Heritage Site called the Cradle of Humankind, which is just 1 hour from here, which gives the world the greatest evidence of our common origins, our common ancestry. And it's not far from here. It tells a story. It tells a story that all of us are very closely related, that we come from the same ancestor, that in fact when you come to Africa, you come to your home. Humanity migrated to all corners of the world from Africa. So, congratulate yourselves, tell your family and your friends, finally, I've seen what my real home looks like, wherever you live all over the planet. But we are here to focus on these common challenges that we face. We are essentially an African species. You know, we're not indigenous to Iceland. We live in Iceland because of technology. We survived as a species because we were able to adapt, protect ourselves against the elements, and we discovered many things to help us do that. But right now, we are threatened because our survival depends on the survival of other species. We have had 5 great extinctions in the world. The last one was 65 million years ago. You know about it, when the dinosaurs went extinct and many other species. Today, we are potentially on the cusp of another big extinction, unless we act. And this extinction will be the product and the result of human activity, nothing else. It'll be about habitat loss. It'll be about climate change. It'll be about things induced by humanity itself. We could be, but we dare not be, the architects of our own demise. The challenge is in front of us. You are here. Your work is terribly important to us. As Minister of Tourism, just briefly, conservation and tourism are twin sisters. They depend on each other. They feed on each other if we do it in the right way. You are here. People come to South Africa. We've had 5 million visitors in the last 6 months from all over the world. You yourself travel all over the world. More than 1 billion people traveled outside of their own countries last year. From China alone, 120 million people traveled abroad. We travel because we want to experience other things. And tourism is the thing that connects us. In this world where there's so much strife and conflict, where there are such unfortunate incidents, getting together in traveling, in tourism, we can build peace, we can build harmony, we can build understanding. And that is so important to the world in which we live today. When you travel for a reason. You want to experience something else. There's something else that South Africa and our neighboring countries has to offer the world which has great things, places of antiquity. We travel to Paris to see the Eiffel Tower. We travel to Jordan to see Petra. We travel to India to see the Taj Mahal. People come to South Africa largely to see the things that South Africa and other African countries offer the world. And a lot of it is about wildlife. If our wildlife is under threat, tourism is under threat, jobs are under threat. The flip side is also true. Tourism helps us protect that wildlife. Tourism helps us protect conservation areas. The expansion of our conservation areas in South Africa has largely been made possible because of the revenue generated by tourism. So, my word to you, welcome. Welcome, welcome to South Africa, your home, the country, the continent of your origins. Have a wonderful time in South Africa. Don't forget to do your work, do it well, because we depend on you to do your work well here at this Congress. We depend on you to continue your work when you go home, but we would like you to enjoy South Africa while you are here. We would like you to establish permanent friendships. We would like you to really consider South Africa and the African continent your home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Hanekom. On that note, let us meet at the carnival later. The meeting will adjourn now after I have made this announcement. Plenary will resume tomorrow at 1400 hours to consider the matters related to rules as discussed earlier on this afternoon, as well as the outstanding matters that were on our agenda of today. Members of the Bureau are requested to meet at 5:30 as we depart here. Thank you very much, Excellencies, heads of delegations, and the Secretariat. Thank you very much for the good work done today. I think we really had good progress. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
It's animal time. Between 10 o'clock that now it's human time at the river. Of course, there are exceptions. You know, the old man of the river believes you are messing with his territory, and the old man of the river is the crocodile. You know, there are exceptions. But you never had these incidents of human-animal conflict then, and you have now. You know, but that will get worse if we do not control it by looking after those animals sustainably. And what message am I trying to make? Please leave us alone. Work with us, but leave us alone, and don't just come to dictate to us what we should be doing. Leave us alone. We know what we're doing. The fact that those animals are still there means there's things we've been doing right. Because there are lots of places in the world where you don't find the animals they had, they talk about them historically. And we don't want a situation whereby we put under pressure and eventually my great-grandchildren can only see a lion in captivity. A lion is a territorial animal. You cannot have it in a cage. The moment you have it in a cage, you change its life altogether. It looks after large tracts of land. Same with the elephant, same with buffalo, with zebra, and all that. And if there are certain issues that we need to talk over, let's talk about them. I think we've done our very best to be cooperative, that we do not deserve what we are getting now. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stephen. Moving on, may I invite Prince Chiweweze from Zimbabwe, the Permanent Secretary in charge of wildlife. Prince.
Thank you very much. I am going to start to give a brief background in terms of what we have in Zimbabwe. We are a country which is also bordering Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique. And these are all range countries where you find a number of wildlife. But as it pertains to Zimbabwe, we have all the big five. And these are in their big numbers depending on which area and which park you are talking about. And in terms of the conservation of wildlife, it falls into three categories. That which is under national parks and directly under the protection of government. And these areas are non-hunting areas. We also have the campfire, which falls under the rural district councils. And this campfire program relates to communal areas management for wildlife, especially those endangered species. And this is where the issue of community-based natural resources management or the issue of hunting comes into play, because it relates to, one, how do we make sure that there is coexistence between wildlife and the communities surrounding those areas. And secondly, because these are animals which have always been there, these are resources which have always been there in these communities. It means that because they have not been hunted to extinct, it is the communities who have had all along the responsibility of looking after these animals. So this is where the issue of trophy hunting largely comes in. The third area is in private conservancies. And these private conservancies, they are also still regulated by government when it comes to the hunting. And this regulation falls into what we refer to as annual quotas, where we are actually discussing and understanding the populations within each area, the species that needs to be hunted, and then a quota is allocated on an annual basis. So it must be clearly understood that when we talk of trophy hunting, it is just not a question of going out, seeing an animal, and you shoot. This is not the case. It is purely an issue that falls under strict control and regulation. So this is what we have. In terms of the area, 33% of the country falls under, has got wildlife. That is either directly as a national park, a private conservancy, a campfire area, or it's an area which is under forestry. And in the forest, that's where you find the animals. So you can imagine the area which has been reserved for wildlife. But as you know, there is development, there is increase in human populations. At the same time, there is also increase in wildlife. And this is where we now need to manage to strike a balance between that development and the growth in the number of wildlife that we have. And as we develop, as human populations grow, we start having a problem where land use is going to change. And the change of land use for development can easily impact on wildlife. But if we then understand that the wildlife, the area set aside for wildlife has got an economic value, then it means people would start appreciating and would protect it. But if we believe that we don't have to hunt, we don't have to allow people to benefit from the resources, God-given resources which they have, then we have got this problem where, on the one hand, the increase of the animals will obviously go and start terrorizing the communities which are surrounding those areas where you find animals, either by killing people, destroying properties, their crops, and the challenge comes in. And in the return, we then have what we refer in our country as revenge killings. This is where people are now killing the animals because they are not benefiting from the resource which is there. They don't understand why we should keep the animals without benefiting from them. They destroy, they kill, and there's no compensation that is coming their way. So these are some of the issues that we deal with. There's also the issue which has been referred to by my colleagues, and which is a fact that a lot of those people who make noise are the ones who have only seen the animals in zoos, on the internet, or in books. And one needs to look at the reality of the situation. Where has these animals which are in zoos come from? They have come from the same people who are looking after them. It is us in the region who have looked after these animals, and this is why you find we still have them in abundance. So when decisions are made without consulting us, without taking into consideration our own interests, then it means those decisions are not made in the interest of conservation. And we strongly believe that those people who are driving, who are behind poaching, are the same people who are saying you should not benefit from wildlife. Why is it that they don't want things to be done legally? Why is it that they want people to continue suffering in terms of looking after the animals, in terms of the destruction of properties, without anything happening by assisting the communities which are surrounding those parks to develop? So these are the issues which are there. And there is one aspect which we have observed in Zimbabwe. That issue is people tend to listen to people who are not, who come under the guise of animal rights. And we have seen a number of them who purport to be organizations when they are actually one-man band, and when they sensationalize things, they get resources through that, which resources is not even plowed into conservation. I will give you the story of Cecil the lion. Yes, it happened, and you all know the outcry which happened. A lot of people poured their money believing that it was going towards protecting the areas where these animals are so that it doesn't recur. But I can confirm, because I am the secretary responsible for the ministry where wildlife is looked after, we didn't receive a penny. And when it happened, I think you also heard a story that Jericho is a brother to Cecil the lion, who had now taken over looking after the pride of Cecil the lion, has also been hunted. And it transpired that it was totally false. It was all meant to create some emotions so that people start believing that there is no control, there is no care of wildlife in Zimbabwe. I've also seen 2 days ago another story which was saying in Hwange National Park, which is one of our biggest national parks, people there are now surviving on killing monkeys and eating monkeys. And I mean, look, how can we go for monkeys when we have got better game there with better game meat? We have got impalas, we have got the buffaloes, we have got the kudus, which are easy to kill. Why should we go for monkeys? How much meat do they have? So this has to be understood in the correct context. I would also want to touch on a topical issue before I end, and this is to do with ivory. I don't know if amongst ourselves here, anyone can stand up and say, by banning ivory, you have enhanced the conservation efforts of those animals. By banning ivory, we have stopped the poaching. I don't know. And I also don't know if there is a value placed on them, whether you can think of going into a bank, withdraw $10 million, and throw it in fire. Why should that happen? So these are the issues that we have to look at in their proper context. I think I will end here because maybe we will be engaging in discussion and some of the questions I'll be able to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prince. I'd like to now call, representing the Republic of South Africa, Mr. Shonisani Mosetsi, is Director General from the Department of Environmental Affairs. He represents here the Minister. Please, Shoni.
Thank you very much. It's not easy to represent the Minister, especially the Minister of South Africa. She is currently co-chairing with the President of the COP at the moment. So when I left the room, she was already on the podium. So the program is extended. That's why she couldn't make it here. Thank you very much, CIC, for for this space and this forum. We just concluded only last week as South Africa what we call a People and Parks Congress. Every 3 years would bring people from different areas of the country, representatives of those who are living closer to protected areas to come together and deliberate on issues of their concern. In the conclusion of that meeting 2 days ago, the community representatives concluded a declaration, and in that declaration I will just highlight 2 or 3 issues. One is that local communities are saying they would want to be involved in decisions that affect them, especially those that affect their livelihoods. They also put in that declaration that they have made lots of sacrifices to forego the land that they could have used for other purposes in the interest of conservation. And they think it's fair that they be assisted and supported to ensure that they benefit from the protection of that land. They further indicated to us that we have to work together with government and private sector in partnership to ensure that sustainable utilization is indeed supported. Those are some of the messages that they sent to us. They are very, very explicit. We'll have a session, if it's not tomorrow, I think it's Monday. I think it's tomorrow on the 25th, which you are invited to, which will reflect on what these community representatives are saying on behalf of their communities. There were close to 600 people representing all corners of South Africa. So we are here as government to ensure that we don't disappoint them. And we are hopeful that through this collective forum here, we are able to advance the expectations that these people have. The other issue that I want to raise is that we need to also respect the local or domestic choices that people make in the interest of conservation. The issue of sovereign rights is very, very important. We understand that we are here to talk about issues that interface between countries. But there are other issues that don't interface, that countries themselves will take decisions on their own in the interest of conservation to say this is the approach that we have chosen. And if you look at the decisions that countries take, similar to ours, we've taken a decision, and it's embedded in our constitution, that sustainable use, conservation, and fair and equitable benefits arising from the use of natural resources cannot be separated. There's no way that you would have a sustainable conservation without looking at issues affecting people, socio-economic issues. It may work in other contexts, but it doesn't work in our context. We're a developing country. We know what confronts us. We know what works for our country. We know what will advance the lives of our people. So, what we have as expectations here is that this forum, as we respect it, and we are part of it, and would always support it moving forward, will advance the notion that supports conservation, and decisions that we'll be taking, of course, will be science-based and informed by science, and decisions that we'll be taking will be consistent with the mandate and the statute of this forum. I'm not talking about the CIC, I'm talking about the actual CITES. And we are hopeful that we will not confuse things as we move forward. What we are picking up from some people is that there are people who are confusing legal trade and illegal trade. Those two are far away from each other. Legal trade that is done sustainably, well managed and well regulated in the framework of sustainable utilization, supports conservation and advances the livelihoods of local people. Illegal trade, as some speakers have said in the last 2 days, does the opposite. And therefore, we take it that we are all united in ensuring that we fight any illegal activity, any illicit activity that undermines sustainable utilization. I just want to highlight two more other things, is that we recognize that there is no one size fits all. There are regional and sub-regional dynamics. There may be challenges in other areas, there may not be challenges in other areas. And therefore, those that are putting their efforts and resources to a point where they are successful in their endeavors should feel recognized and incentivized to continue to do better. We have noted that most of the underlying causes of species lost may not necessarily be what people are talking about. One, the issue of habitat loss and protection of ecosystems is very, very important. The issue of enforcement is very, very important. The issue of dealing with human-wildlife conflict is very, very important. The issue of ensuring that there are socio-economic benefits is also very, very important. So all these issues are important. And we don't have to come with solutions that may not deal with the underlying causes of the problem. And therefore, we need to be cognizant about how we move forward. We've got a unique system in South Africa that brings all spheres of government. Plus, I see the representatives of the private sector here who have worked with government. We've got successful stories, one of which is the Cape Mountain zebra that we can share with you. With less than 100 individuals left at some point, now there are more than 5,000 in South Africa. So when we talk to some of these successes and we talk to sustainable utilization within that context, we think and we are convinced that we know what we are talking about. And therefore, we think and support colleagues here who have indicated that those decisions that are taken either in this forum or anywhere else, those that are affected, countries that are affected, range states that are affected, should be part of those decisions in the process before some of those decisions are concluded. Because there are repercussions in some of the decisions that may be taken if they are not science-based, if they are not informed by the context, and if they find themselves, and if those decisions are taken emotionally. There are some things that we have noted, some stories that people write, and many other things that don't represent what we stand for. We've got a very strong regulatory system here in South Africa with the CITES regulations, with the TOPS regulations, threatened or protected area species regulations, and many other regulations that deal with a number of things. And sometimes there are those who ignore this for whatever reason. The last part that I want to talk about is that we have taken a decision as South Africa that will pursue what we call a biodiversity economy strategy. In that strategy, there are three elements: issues of transformation, issues of economic growth, issues of sustainability, meaning conservation and protection of resources are taken into consideration. We do have areas where, as in like in national parks, where ecotourism and other activities are advanced more than others. There are other areas where other activities are advanced, including trophy hunting, more than others. And this combination and this dynamic in terms of approach for South Africa, we have found it working for us. And we are hopeful that as we move forward, especially in the area where local people have received back their land and took a decision to say, we want to keep this land for conservation, indeed they will benefit. And all these other issues that we are talking about, trophy hunting will be allowed, and there won't be undue and uninformed restrictions that will negatively affect them, because when it affects them, it also affects conservation, and it becomes counterproductive. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shoni. If you'll allow, I'd like to invite now a presentation from the private sector, the industries, the investors who spend a lot of money setting up conservancies that practice sustainable use. They are on the ground. They have a story to tell as well. So I'd like to invite Willie Pabst here, who is well known to a lot of people in Zimbabwe. Willie.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, gentlemen up here. There's nothing that I have heard that I couldn't fully subscribe to. I'm a German investor. I live mostly in Africa, partly in Germany. Because of my investment in Africa and in other parts of the world, I've been able to also afford a philanthropic investment in Zimbabwe. It is a philanthropic investment, and let there be no misunderstanding. Wildlife conservation is not anything that makes anybody rich. You either have the passion for it or you get the hell out of it. It's as simple as it is. So, by nature of that, here are my learned friends from Zimbabwe. They know I'm one of the largest private landowners in the country. By heart, I'm half a Zimbabwean. The Savi Valley Conservancy is not quite correct. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs partly to you. I am still the largest landowner within. So let me cut to the chase. What is really our concern? What's our problem? Our problem is very basic. We're being told by people outside, people of my color of the skin, on how to run things in Africa. A lot of us here on stage, we're in Brussels, when the EU Parliament was trying to pass a resolution against the importation of trophies into Europe. That is equivalent to banning hunting. Boom, there it is. They have no understanding, they have no regard for what they are destroying. I researched that. So we went into it, and I talked to WWF, IUCN, and all the rest of it. And I can tell you that alone in Southern Africa, if we ban sustainable use, we would destroy 55 million hectares of land under conservation. That's in Namibia, South Africa, and Zimbabwe together. We would lose in the region of 20 million animals. We would lose hundreds of thousands of jobs. Each man or woman supporting a family of whatever 10, we would put millions of local people into destitution. Why? We're trying to tell them how to run their wildlife. Their wildlife concept, including sustainable use, is a very successful model. In your country, in South Africa, you counted 600,000 wildlife animals in 1960. We today have over 20 million. Why? Because we also allow sustainable use. Therefore, I am telling you, and ladies and gentlemen of the media, listen to me very carefully. I mean every word that I'm saying. These NGOs out there who propose to be animal protection, animal husbandry organizations, in my book, are criminal. Did you hear this? Criminal. Because they are soliciting donors' money under false pretenses. They go out there and say, Cecil the lion, we're going to stop this poor animal and the others from being shot. They do not realize, or they probably realize, but their concept wouldn't work, that if what they promise their donors would be converted into real life, we would lose all these 55 million hectares in Southern Africa I've talked about, all these jobs, because sustainable use is a key element of funding conservation. Period. It's as simple as it is. So how can we possibly be led astray by people out there apparently on the pedestal of the higher moral ground, saying to us that hunting in South African terms, 0.5, 0.2% of our mammals helps pay for protection of 99.8, 99.5% of it. That is a concept that works. It's not like what we do with our cattle and our goats and all the rest of it, which are sustainably produced, if you will, but only for our palate. We're killing small cows because they taste better. On my land, we're killing 0.2%, 0.5% of our mammals to grow the rest. I believe I'm on the high pedestal of the moral high ground and not these animal rights people. I am disgusted with these people because they are selling themselves in a way that really is criminal. I say that again, it's fraudulently misrepresenting what their intentions will really cause downstream. That is my message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Willie. Lastly, as an African, there are some protocols that we must observe. When we have an elder in the group, or elders, we also must give them an opportunity to speak. So I'd like to invite the President of the Chiefs Council, Zimbabwe, Chief Fortune Charumbira, please. I've heard you speak before. I'm excited to hear more. Kindly. We can use that mic.
Okay,
Big
from
call.
which position? Okay, maybe from that position then. So I'll have to stand somewhere. Just sit there with the sorry. Now.
Come on this side. Come on this side. Let them see you and hear your loud voice. Or you can come right here if you prefer.
With your permission, yes, because I can't find a better position.
I will be honored, please.
Do I need this? No.
You don't.
I don't need this. Good evening. First of all, the Director of Proceedings in this room and the rest of the protocols are observed. Ladies and gentlemen, I just came in, I missed, I believe, a lot, but I was in the plenary. But I stand here with confidence that all the things that were said before I came are in the right direction, having listened to one or two statements. I'm the President of the Council of Chiefs, Chief Charumbira from Zimbabwe. When I'm President of the Council of Chiefs means I am an elected person by all the traditional leaders, village heads, up to the level of the chiefs in Zimbabwe. My statement on this very important occasion and CITES convention is that, first of all, I agree with what my countryman Willie Pabst was saying. I can see at his face the passion that he cannot quite express himself, what is deep inside, which is the wrong perceptions, the wrong approaches that people are bringing to this issue of wildlife conservation or management. As a community leader, which is where I belong, and by the way, this thing is a sign that I'm a traditional leader in Zimbabwe. Not everyone can have this on them unless they are traditional leaders. And all the problems coming out of rural areas where wildlife exists in Zimbabwe, and also at my desk. And the major problem that we have, like in our country, when you talk of wildlife conservation, is that the communities, by most models that are used, do not quite participate in wildlife conservation management, including at sites here. If we are to do any audit of who has come from where, then you see where the real problem lies. Certainly more than 90% of the people who will be at sites do not even come from areas where there is wildlife. And they are the ones now who want to make decisions about wildlife. But when we go back to our countries, we talk of participation, participatory decision making, when the people that are affected are not participating. And as a result, people come here with some misconceptions, having read some article written by a person who probably was even sponsored by somebody who has got their own attitude and their own agenda. The truth is that if you want to manage wildlife sustainably, the local people in the rural areas have to take center stage also in all the arrangements that exist, including at CITES. Their voice should be well represented. Unfortunately, nobody is funding them to come to CITES. There are NGOs that are elitist, coming from all the major cities of the world where there is no wildlife. They will be making noise for the next 12 days here. Ask them from which village they come from. You will find that some of them have never lived even where animals exist. And I think that then invites the unfortunate thinking that some people would want to think on behalf of others. And that is the source of conflict everywhere in the world. The issue of domineering and looking yourself with a super thinker and the others don't think. Only 2 months, 3 months ago, our minister in Zimbabwe, the Minister of Environment, that's responsible for wildlife, invited a number of people from communities where wildlife exists, those that have been victims in the conflict with wildlife. And we had some disabled in various ways. And this woman from Binga stood up. She's in her, I believe, maybe 30 years old. She has 2 kids. And she brought the 2 kids all the way from Binga to Harare. It's over 1,000 kilometers. And then she was saying, Minister, how can you help me? I lost my husband this year in March. Was killed by an elephant. We were attacked at night when we were sleeping. In fact, the husband was guarding crops against wildlife in the fields. And somewhat the elephant killed the husband. And then he said when he died, the only blankets they took, because in our tradition, when someone dies, we put them in a coffin and they go with the blankets. The body goes with the blankets. So the 2 blankets went with my late husband in the grave. And my children now have no blankets. Then we don't have money. How can you help us? There are so many stories of people that have been lost, lives lost. I'm not here to give you all the statistics, but certainly in a particular year in Zimbabwe, we do not have anything less than 300 people that die because of wildlife. Those injured, naturally, there will be more than 1,000. And the loss of their own livelihoods, the crops. Elephants are very destructive. I have on my phone a photo which I took last week on Thursday when we went to Gona Region National Park. How the elephants are destroying vegetation, big trees. because of overpopulation. And imagine out of human life, the lions, apart from killing people, the livestock lost in a year to lions, in a year in a particular area. In fact, on aggregate basis, over 1,000 cattle, donkeys, in a particular, over 1,000. But to the NGO here, nobody's talking about these losses. Loss in terms of human life, loss in terms of wildlife, a loss of breadwinners. It's a big issue. It's the breadwinner, once they are gone, even the children now have to pull out of school. Whatever is coming out from wildlife, what we need to do at CITES is to simply focus more on the benefits, how we can include the local people, not only in the management, but also in terms of benefits from what is accruing from wildlife business. That is the CITES that I would personally want to see. That is a sustainable CITES that will hold members of parties together. There is a risk of this CITES 10 years, 20 years down the line of some people starting even to pull out. Because if it is based on the dominance of people who are ill-informed, certainly some will find that it's irrelevant. It only becomes irrelevant if it addresses the real issues of people who are in the areas where there's wildlife. The investments in wildlife should go and improve the infrastructure, the quality of life in those areas. I don't know elsewhere, but in Southern Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia, South Africa, even Botswana, wildlife flourish in marginal areas, natural ecological regions that are marginal. Dry, semi-arid, that's where you find the elephants in most wildlife. And people who live in those areas do not enjoy any meaningful, good quality of life. And the only source, because for agriculture is not very sustainable. Even in cattle ranching, you know it, because of foot and mouth and other diseases. So the only source, economic activity that can uplift their lives is wildlife itself. Now, when you say there will be no more tourism or banning of trade in elephant, all those animals, what you are saying now is that the only source of economic sustainability is taken out. And once you do that, you actually worsen the conflict. But if we were to ensure that those people benefit, their children go to school because of income from wildlife, that whoever is injured or has suffered loss is compensated, the people would actually police the wildlife themselves. All these monies you are spending on international convention, on this, on protection of animals and Interpol and the rest that I was hearing about in the other room, the whole thing has become too expensive because the local policemen have been excluded. You are using institutions that exist far away from those areas. If you involve the people themselves, it would be different. Look, people in rural areas have cattle, even the dogs and the cats. And they dare kill their cat, dare kill their dog, let alone the cattle. You have it hard. So here's the paradox. Why is it that for their own cattle, they are very jealousy about them? They keep them. But when it comes to the elephant or the buffalo, they kill. the reason is simple. Because from their cattle, their goats, and everything, they derive clear benefits from them. They are theirs. Wildlife, they see it as something you've taken away from them. Someone else is benefiting. So we need to solve that problem. But at the end of the day, CITES should not make the mistake of saying, stop hunting for this, move to Appendix 1, move to Appendix 1. And in fact, if you are moving to Appendix 1 for everything, you end up moving to Appendix 0. Everything will be gone. And the people will just go there and hunt. Because now you have alienated them from their own economic resource. All you need to do is put in mechanisms, institutional arrangements that ensure that government, national parks, all other institutions, and the communities work together for the benefit. And people should see the benefit of keeping and protecting those animals. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chief. I'd like to now finally give a chance to Willem. You've heard from him. He has been the Secretary General of CITES for many, many years, longer than anyone else has. He also has worked with the European Union. Willem, could you give us your perspective?
Yes. You all know about the European Union resolution on hunting trophies, which would make trade in hunting trophies, as they call it, import and export, more difficult and complicated than commercial trade, large-scale commercial trade in Appendix 2 animals. Animals can be traded simply on an export permit for commercial reasons, but when it's a hunting trophy, it would require an import permit from the importing country, which they can refuse, and an export permit that would be subject to conditions, as I call them. They call them guidelines. They are not guidelines, they are conditions. And guidelines that are conditions and also which are almost impossible to follow and are necessary to follow for Appendix 2 species are ridiculous. So in our position paper, which you can find on the CSC website, you can also send Thomas Magescu an email or anybody in CSC and ask for this position on agenda items, what is it, 39, 1 and 2. We want, on Tuesday morning, there will probably be formed a working group. I talked to the European Commission and they agree that there should be a working group. I call on all countries that have spoken here and all countries that agree with what you have been saying to join this working group. Stick up your hand and work in that working group on a solution that is acceptable to you and not to importing Western countries. Not interesting to animal welfare NGOs who then will win another battle against what is reasonable and right. So be, please, part of this working group and fight in there for it. Another thing is that the opposite, like you mentioned, I have seen on the internet people asking for countries to pull out of CITES. That doesn't help at all. If the Conference of the Parties would decide, which it will not, to put the lion in Appendix 1, and you say, okay, then we pull out, then all the other parties, unless they make a reservation, which they will not, can still not import your lion products or lion trophies. You would be worse off than, so you can beat them by joining or by staying in them and not by leaving. It has been shown in the past. I think United Arab Emirates left once to protect the trade in birds of prey for hunting. And 2 years later they came back into CITES because they found out that they made a mistake. So if you want to be involved in decision-making on CITES issues, don't exclude yourself by pulling out. I'm sure that none of your countries have ever considered this seriously, but I've seen NGOs and people that got angry, which is understandable, to say, okay, then let them, we get out, and we don't participate anymore. but please don't do that. Stay in and beat them while participating and bringing your arguments that I have heard thousands of them tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Willem. We'd like now to open the floor. The media houses that are here, please, the floor is yours, sir. Please introduce yourself first. This mic isn't working.
Hello. Yeah. My name is Toshinaba from Kyoto News, which is a Japanese news agency. Thanks for your explanation and everything here. And I would like to know your opinion on this proposal for the closure of domestic ivory trade market. And I would like you to explain the position of your country. Thanks.
Okay, who'd like to respond first? Shoni, and then down the line.
I will only talk on matters of principle, which should apply to all the proposals. One principle is that national sovereignty has to be respected. National sovereignty would mean that the decisions and the approaches that countries take in the interest of conservation and sustainable use, consistent with the dynamics of their own countries, must be respected. The second issue is that sustainable use contributes to conservation, and that has to be supported and be seen as such. I mean, we've been given so many examples to that effect, and therefore that must be looked at in that light. So in our approach to whatever that we'll be confronted with and whatever that we're dealing with, we are very clear that the mandate of this international instrument is to support all of us and regulate trade between nations. And we are hopeful that CITES will continue to fulfill its role in that regard. Thank you.
Minister?
Yes. Before I come to the question here, I just wanted to say one thing. While we are talking about hunting and a lion, there's a say or a proverb in African, it's an African proverb which says that until the lion is a storyteller, the tale of the hand will always glorify the hunter. That means until all these international organizations who are now trying to make decisions on wildlife have the game guards, the scouts, the community conservancy committees have a voice and they bring their own narratives. Now we want to prescribe on them because they don't have a voice. Now we must be mindful of that. Now they should be brought in on the board and they will be able to tell us. They will be able to find their own narratives. And I heard myself speaking through the chief here. He has given us a practical reality on the ground. What is happening on the ground? How people suffer. They bear the brand of sharing a habitat with animals, wild animals. Now, the question of domestic, ban on domestic, call on to ban the domestic ivory markets. First of all, it's a non-starter on this platform, the platform of CITES. What is CITES exactly? What does the convention all about? that is a dream that will not be realized and we are not going to allow such a thing to be entertained here. Because, first of all, how do you come and start regulating the local market? International does not even allow that. CITES is there to regulate the international trade. That means only international trade. It will be extraterritorial for CITES now to come and say, in the bedrooms of every country, this is how you're supposed to lie your linens, this is how you're supposed to. Now, it is uncalled for, even because whatever is locally done should be allowed, each country should be allowed to regulate its own market. What we can do, I could have respected that. If the proponent comes and say, we call upon countries to find proper regulations so that they control the domestic market of ivory, then it's a proper thing. But with the arrogancy to say, ban, that's the arrogance of the highest order. And that cannot be accepted. For someone to come and, even the United Nations resolutions, I think it's resolution 1803, Roman 17. It talks about permanent sovereignty over natural resources. That means a country has got that permanent sovereignty. Now, for somebody to come and say, ban that and that, this is how you're supposed to do, it's tantamount to neocolonialism. Nothing else than I can describe that. It's tantamount to neocolonialism. And that we cannot accept. We have to take serious exception to some of these proponents' proposals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stephen, did you want to add anything?
Thank you. Honorable Minister, thank you very much for just lighting the path. Makes it much easier for the rest of us. But firstly, what is CITES involved with? Adding on to what the Honorable Minister said, CITES has something to do with illegal wildlife, illegal trade in endangered species. Illegal. The platform that talks about trade in general, internationally, is the World Trade Organization. And CITES has to draw a line. When we talk about a domestic market, every country has its own legislative and regulatory framework that governs management of its systems. And I would say yes, when you talk about products from illegally obtained ivory. Again, that's subject to proof because it's very difficult at times, and if people have already made those things. But it's possible to find out where they got the ivory and all that. But that is for me and the government that I work for to deal with, and not anybody, to try and tell me how it should be done. If it has an effect on some other economy somewhere, then I have to be told and convinced that somebody selling a piece of a bangle or something made out of ivory, whose source is verifiable, has changed an economic situation in another country. If that is seen to be a source of trade where people maybe take these things and still crush them and take them somewhere, we need that information to be shared with us. But it's not possible to just walk into somebody's house and say, I notice you have too many children here, you have to stop. You don't feed them, they're not your children. It doesn't come to you to say, please help me look after these children. And then you walk in and say, no, there's no space here, you have too many children. Buy yourself a bigger house or stop having children. The decision is for that family. And every country, every government has its own legislative and regulatory framework that governs trade of anything that is tradable. I thank you.
Thank you. Willie, you had something to add?
Oh, do you think I never have? I always do.
My mistake.
Very basic from my point of view. Those countries and those NGOs who are against consumptive use, who also want to deny us to earn money towards protecting our endangered species, specifically rhinos. I have over 160,000 under my control. 160,000, that would be wishful thinking. 160 under our control, and it costs us an absolute fortune to protect these. So why don't those NGOs out there who obviously do not believe in our business model and want to change it, why don't they make an offer? They can buy our ivory, they can buy our rhino horns, and they can do with it as they please, but at least we will get that revenue back into our conservation.
Okay, next question there, please. Identify yourself.
Mr. Chivevete is not here now. And
Please identify yourself.
Oh, sorry. My name is Elise Tempelhoff. I'm from Media 24, environmental journalist. So I have questions about Zimbabwe, many questions. Yes, I think the chief can maybe answer some of the questions. First of all, why does Zimbabwe, if they think or feel that they have too many elephants, why don't they then just shoot them? Why would they ask CITES for permits to catch calves to take them out to China, which is hugely unethical? And that this is also an issue that was brought under the attention of the international media by the criminal NGOs that Mr. Babs talked about. Then the other thing I want to ask is, why are there no animals or hardly any animals in Ghana-Roseau? I was there lately. There are hardly any animals. And is it on the record that Zimbabwe... Ghana-Roseau, I'm talking about Ghana-Roseau, which is part of the greater Transfrontier Park. The other question is, are there really 20 million animals in Zimbabwe? What did you say? Oh, Southern Africa. Oh, okay. No, but how many animals are in Zimbabwe? Because that is a burning question. Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very
There was
much.
a lot of questions, and I'm not so sure I can remember them all.
Okay, Willie, and then we'll ask the chief because the PS has just stepped out.
Okay. With regards to how many animals there are, we've done a census, and I don't know what the latest numbers are. We certainly, with Conservation Force, have done an elephant census. We've got 84,000 elephants in Zimbabwe growing. Yes, there's some areas where poaching is rampant. We're working on it very clearly. With regards to juvenile elephants going to other countries, I have to agree to disagree from the point of view I don't agree with our government in Zimbabwe. I don't think that's right. I personally don't think that taking young, highly intelligent elephant babies away and moving them to China is a good move, and it gives us such a bad press, and it gives us nothing good for conservation. That's my personal view, okay? So what else did I... Gunnar Zoo. Okay, very easy. I happen to also be the European non-executive chair of the Peace Park Foundation, down here, founded by Nelson Mandela, Anton Rupert, and Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. We, as in Sango, moved 1,300 plains-gain animals from our part of the world with German funding at my initiative in 2013 to the park. The park is growing rapidly. It has a vast overpopulation of elephants. It's probably got about 12,000, if I remember, and their carrying capacity is probably three to four. So we have a real problem in that regard. When you look at general plains game, remember, Gunnar Zoo is a very different habitat. It's sparse. You will not find what you will find in Mala Mala or Londolozi or in the lower part of Kruger Park. Very different. We need more animals, but we're very much moving in the right direction. With the Peace Park Foundation, Sabi Valley Conservancy, our government, it's moving very much in the right direction. Thank you.
Okay, any other response from Zimbabwe?
Maybe on behalf of the PS who is not here, I just want to say that for Zimbabwe, it is home to the second largest remaining elephant population in the world. We are standing at 83,000. And for our largest park, which is Hwange National Park, it is 14,600 square kilometers and has a population of 45,000 elephants. Where we are now having problems of localized overabundance, in that now they are clearing vegetation and also moving into the adjacent communal lands and causing a lot of havoc there in terms of human-wildlife conflict. So for Gonarejo, I'm surprised that the person who asked it is saying that there's no wildlife. When we have about 5,000 elephants in Gonarejo, and we also have this problem of human-wildlife conflict. So for Zimbabwe, I think at the moment we have got a very successful management regimes, like what the permanent secretary was saying. And this is why we have 83,000 elephants. I don't know, maybe the PS has something to add.
The PS has to hear the question.
I've just gone out
first.
and I'm not too sure. Well, not too sure. I didn't hear the question if I need to make additions. But the gentleman who was responding is actually the person who is in the forefront of conservation, because his responsibility looks after our conservation efforts.
Okay. Do you have a question for the PS specifically?
Yes, I have.
Why are you exporting animals to China?
Yes, to China. And yeah.
Go ahead.
I have
Why don't you
another
ask?
question, and that is, or a comment to make, and that is to take Cecil the lion as an ethical hunt is a very bad example, because Cecil the lion was an unethical. He was taken out, or what do you call it? He was taken out with bait, out of hungry. It's not a lie. Well, he was a collared
Let her
lion.
ask the question, please. This is a free forum, and
So,
we want the media to ask.
How will we get the facts of what really happened to Cecil the
All
lion?
right. The PS is here.
He was not supposed to be hunted.
Good. All right. PS, you want to respond? We have nothing to hide, I'm sure.
Well, I am actually happy because it gives us an opportunity to interact. And I also think that feel free to ask questions, because sometimes you tend to believe things because you don't understand what is going on, and maybe you have not had the correct information for you to make the correct judgment. So I think it's fair for her to have asked that question. The starting point is we exported 24 elephants to China last year. And you have heard a lot of reports which says 130 or whatever numbers. That is not correct. It was 24. Now, let us look at it from our point of view. First of all, we have got this overabundance of elephants in certain areas where we now need to reduce the numbers. The starting point would be, do you go on a culling exercise or you need to look at other alternatives? Now, in the absence of conservation hunting, and I'm saying conservation hunting because the trophy hunt is we are selecting specific animals which must be hunted. It is not just any animal. Now, for it to be a trophy, it means it has a certain size, and even in terms of the tasks and so on and so forth. The gestation period for an elephant is 22 months before it gives birth. And you can take how many years does it have to live before it becomes a mature trophy animal. So you need to understand that. So when we then say that is the animal for trophy in a quota, it means these are the big animals which have lived for a certain number of years, and therefore we are trying to maintain a balance. And by its very nature, it's also going towards its shelf life in terms of age. It cannot sometimes feed itself. Under drought conditions, you have heard that the areas you find wildlife is these are arid places. During lunch, I was seated next to a certain gentleman from Norway, and he told me that before he came here, he passed through Namibia. And he was telling me that it was all dry. And you don't see anything. There are animals there, but it was all dry, and he doesn't even know how those animals survive. So when you now try to balance the ecosystem in terms of maintaining it, you then say, in the absence of trophy hunting, which is, I prefer to call it conservation hunting, what is the next step? The next step is to reduce the numbers through live cells. And when you go to CITES rules, it's permitted, it's legal, and you then have to go through certain processes to satisfy yourself that where you are taking the animals, they are going to survive. So this is the process, and I strongly believe it's one way of making sure that we maintain the numbers. Then I made mention of the program of culling. You see, when you go through culling, in order to maintain your numbers, it means you have to go for the productive animals. This is what it means. So, and in the process of doing that, you also have to make sure that you are maintaining your genetic lines. You have to make sure that some of these genes, you don't lose them. So it becomes a complex and expensive exercise. So it has to be understood in that context. Our belief is that it must be done in a well-managed, well-regulated regime where it has been scientifically proven that if we do certain things, it gives us the result that we want. That's what we want, instead of banning, because it doesn't lead us anywhere. If we ban, what next? What is the solution? And they continue growing in numbers. What then do we do? So you see, here's the challenge. So what we are trying to do is to manage that.
Okay, thank you. Another question.
She was something on Cecil the lion. You see, let me give you another scenario. All of us here have heard or have come across someone who have been mugged in the street. Now, that's wrong, isn't it? But have we condemned every human being to be a thief because someone is marked. If something has happened, we need to look at what has happened. And if it has been done wrongly, we need to correct that. And this is why we are here. This is what true and genuine conservationists do. We look at the solutions. What has happened? What solutions do we need to put in place? And you know, the life of a lion, before it's driven out of its pride, it's around 13, 14 years. And Cecil had lived up close to somewhere there, which means, and it was a collared animal, by the way. By collared animals, it was being used for research. Yes, whatever happened, happened, but I don't think the information you got is correct to say it was lowered out of the park so that people could shoot it. It strayed the line where we outside. Remember, there are no fences, and these are real wild animals. And the longer they go out of the park in search of food, you start getting those problems. If it had gone a further distance, the next thing was human-wildlife conflict. Maybe it was going to eat someone's livestock. Maybe it was going to kill someone. Who knows? So, but the fact that we were using it for certain things, for our research and so forth, and it was killed unintentionally, does not then say we should ban hunting. We should address the problem. The problems which emanated from there should be what we should be concentrating our attention on and resolving it. And we have since put mechanism in place so that it doesn't recur. Thank you.
Thank you, V.S. Is the gentleman there?
Hello. My name is Ron Thompson. I'm the president of a new NGO called the True Green Alliance. And I think I can add some useful information. I was in charge of the Gonorrhea for 5.5 years. And I was the provincial game warden in charge of Wankie National Park as well when I served in Zimbabwe. And I've been deeply involved with elephant management. There are a number of issues that are not being brought to the fore here. First of all, the primary purpose of a national park, its primary objective is to maintain species diversity. Nothing else is more important. And once you get an excessive elephant population in a national park, it overutilizes its habitat. It destroys whole woodlands. Species of trees disappear. Soil is exposed to very serious erosion by rain, and you lose species of plants and species of animals as soon as your population exceeds the carrying capacity of the habitat. Now, this is something which the IUCN, CITES, and every other organization in the world today is totally avoiding. If you look at the IUCN figures for elephant populations in Africa, if the population is increasing, they pat everybody on the back and say, "Isn't this great? We've got more elephants than we had 5 years ago." Or if it's less, then someone gets condemned because they haven't been doing their anti-poaching. But half the time it's got nothing to do with poaching at all. The elephants in the Gonorrhea in the 1970s numbered 5,000. And the park is only 2,000 square miles in extent. Now, that means that it was already grossly overextended then. I was the game warden in charge of the population reduction there, and we reduced the population in 1971 and 1972 from 5,000 to 2,500. And it was all done scientifically. It was all done very ethically and very, very efficiently. With 3 of us hunting, we were putting down between 30 and 50 elephants in a herd in less than 60 seconds. And you can't get more humane than that, or more efficient. And in those days, it was thought that 2,500 might be all right, but we were going to leave it and just see how the habitat recovered. Well, let me tell you that the elephants in those early 70s almost wiped out the baobab trees in the Gonorrhea, plus they destroyed all the riverine habitat, plus they destroyed the Mopani woodland and the dry sandfelt woodland. And I'd just like to make a statement in terms of the baobabs. Some of those baobabs were giant baobabs, and the various people who have examined baobabs said that some of these old trees grow to an age of 5,000 years. Now that means that the trees that in 1 year, the elephants of the Gonorrhea, because there were too many, were wiping out, were already 1,700 years old when Tutankhamun was pharaoh of Egypt, to give you some idea of the issues involved here and that are not being addressed. We have to start looking at our elephant populations in terms of the carrying capacity of the habitats which are carrying them. And the Gonorrhea, the last figures I heard was for 2014, was that the numbers were over 11,000. Now, 11,000 elephants living in 2,000 square miles of very, very, very arid country, which, when there were only 5,000, were already knocking out the baobab trees, will give you some idea of the problems involved. In Wankie National Park in 1960, I'm one of the few people alive today, I think, that knew what happened in 1960. But in 1960, we counted the elephants in Wankie in the dry season of 1960 in October, and we physically counted 3,500 elephants. The Parks Board at the time determined that 3,500 elephants were too many for Wankie. Why? Because they were already eliminating the Pterocarpus angolensis trees, the mukwas or the kiats, and the big umlala palm trees, and a whole lot of acacias, the Acacia areolobus, Acacia fleckii, a whole lot of other trees. At 3,500 elephants, they were already changing the environment. Today, the last I heard for Wankie was 50,000 elephants. I hear today it's 45,000. What does it matter? What's a few thousand between friends? When you can consider the fact that in 1960, the Parks Board decided that we were going to reduce the elephant population there from 3,500 to 2,500 to try and stop the killing of specific trees in the game reserve. Now we have got 50,000. That's 20 times as many as the authorities felt was justified as the carrying capacity for Wankie in 1960. That's 2,000% overstocked. And here we're talking about worrying about shooting a few elephant bulls when we should, in fact, be going in there and shooting out half the population as a first management step of a population reduction exercise. And this is not being spoken about because it is infra-dig. So we're missing out on a lot of major issues with respect to elephants and with respect to the habitats that are supporting them. The Gonorrhea is in splinters now. And we are losing biodiversity hand over fist. The same thing is happening in Kruger National Park. Kruger National Park since 1960 has lost 95% of its top canopy trees. There are now no longer any very large trees for the numbers of marshal eagles that used to breed there, and tawny eagles and things like this. So we mustn't just be looking at numbers, we must be looking at total overall national park management, ecosystem management, and that is not happening. So those people who are just interested in numbers, I'm sorry, they've got the wrong end of the stick.
Thank you. Excellent. Yes, sir. Please identify yourself first.
Thank you very much. My name is Kirsten Matandani. I come from an organization called SAPA, South African Predators Association. I just wanted to make a comment to listening at the wisdom that came out from this small gathering here. I thought, yes, we came from the era of mineral looting in Africa. It was easy for minerals, but it's not easy for animals. But however, the propaganda that is running now is to destroy our confidence in terms of looking after our own animals. And I think what should go out from this gathering here to the bigger forum is to say, Africa can manage what belongs to it. I think the time of colonization is over. People need to be serious about it. The excitement that are caused by those that are picketing without even knowing what type of animal they're talking about, but only watching it on TV, is just going to destroy what we have. And that's the only thing that is left for us as Africa, because minerals are gone. If you drive, we are in Gauteng, we call it the city of gold. Underneath are just empty holes. Gold is gone. And this cannot be business as usual. And I think somebody mentioned something very interesting, that perhaps there's a need to review CITES objective, because the goalposts have shifted. It's no longer CITES. So perhaps with our elders here, go back and begin to say, wait a minute, can we go back and look how we started? What are our objectives? Because I don't hear objectives being mentioned now. CITES is like a trade organization, like our seniors said. And look at the wealth of wisdom from those that have been in this continent. Let's begin to embrace that. And I think we can restore what is ours. And it's time we stand up and state the facts as facts. Yes, they have media behind them. They have TV behind them. They have funds that they can go around with propaganda. And this propaganda needs to be addressed so that we begin to move forward. We must be respected as individual nations. Our sovereignty is important. Our autonomy is important. Thank you.
Very well spoken. Thank you very much, sir. Madam here, please. We Africans will never stop speaking about this. I can assure you. This session is going to go on until all of you leave. And we will stay here still talking, because we must be heard. That's the message. Madam.
Thank you very much. I'm from Zimbabwe. The name is Mrs. Mpamanga. My worry is that Africa continues to be divided over our own resources by those that have money, and they have the capacity to destroy, divide, and make noise about things that they've never seen, like everybody else has said. I think it's time, like the last speaker said, to say Africa must stand up, in my own thinking now. Africa must stand up and speak, like you rightly say, let Africa speak. Speak about what? Our own resources. Those that are saying what they are saying about, especially Southern Africa, these are our resources. They just Google. They've never been to any one of our countries. They just Google to say, okay, that's Sawe River. Okay, that's Limpopo River. They've never been here. But what are we saying? Come to Southern Africa. Come to Zimbabwe. Start with us, Zimbabwe. Come, we'll take you around so that you get an understanding of what is going on. When we talk of communities, when we talk of campfire, what are we saying as Zimbabwe and our animals? And our animals are our own resources. They are our resource by right. And people cannot continue to speak for us from out there. I want to call upon NGOs, like every speaker has said. NGOs, with all your monies, with the monies that you are making out of resources that belong to us, I think it's time you think of investing that money in Africa and stop bickering about our own resources. We are capable of running our own countries like you are doing your own countries. Let Africa run its own animals. Let Africa speak for themselves. It's a pity we have been divided because of money. Those that are paying our fellow African countries for them to burn their ivory, God knows whether they've been burnt or they've what has that happened. We don't know. But we saw them being put on fire. Give us that money. I want to repeat that. Give us that money. We want money in Africa, and we are using our resources. We are not taking animals from zoos. So let us enjoy our God-given resources. Thank you.
Chief.
Something quickly and very short. The figures we've been given about elephant population 1960s, please also consider another reality of climate change. These national parks' capacity to hold animals is also going down very much because of climate change. They are now much drier, and that's very important. The other thing is, Sisi the lion, I want to come back to that issue. The Sisi of the lion. You know, whilst we need to conserve animals and we don't accept what happened, but why was the cry about Sisi of the lion world over much louder than the thousands of lives that we lose in Zimbabwe of human beings from the same animals? Why do we cry much louder about one animal, a lion, yet we tell you that even today as we speak, between January and today, we have lost not less than 600 people as a result of wildlife? Nobody comes to CITES to cry about loss of human life, but about a lion and an elephant, or it shows an unfortunate attitude. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. John, please.
I'd rather hear these gentlemen up here than speak myself, but since it's now time to ask questions, I'd like to point out something. I participated in a Ghana Zoo workshop, elephant planning workshop. Zimbabwe has 4 regional plans, and the Great Elephant Survey showed 11,200, a record number, the most in this century, last century, and this century, number of elephants in Ghana Zoo. That's number one. Second thing I like, and that's a fact, I just verified it, the figure. So the 5,000 was right for ages, but not today, it's doubled. The number 2 is I've had an opportunity to speak with the leadership of most of the animal rights groups here at one time or another over the last few years. And each one of them say that they would rather wildlife cease to exist. I repeat, they would rather wildlife cease to exist than be hunted, than be in a zoo, than have man to have dominion over it. They want it let loose out there to own the land. Of course, it's not possible. Management is necessary. I won't go into judgment call. But that's the position that animal rights, most of the organizations here that are driving this at CITES and have been doing it since Cecil the Lion before that, or would rather wildlife cease to exist. This is an unbelievable reality of the situation.
The gentleman over there. I'd like to hear more from the media, if you're still here, or have you run away now? Please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the media are not here. I'm from Namibia. I'm John Kasauna. From the very community, I'm a community member. It's so sad to hear that somebody somewhere, somehow, is telling you that you don't deserve to live from wildlife. To me, that is so painful. And I was also wondering that I thought we are independent states, nations that can determine our own destiny. But yet we have been prescribed by the unknown. I don't know where these people are. Maybe somehow they are in these conferences. But what I think is that it seems like we are in a minority. And I heard what my senior there said, that we cannot also move away from this convention, from CITES, because we are going to lose. But then what are we going to do? Because we are in the minorities, our voices is not going to be heard. Who is going to hear us, our voices for us, ready for the claim that we are going to put forward to be heard? Because to me, this is a problem. We are talking all around here, but those that have got stronger voices will continue doing what they are going to do, and we remain where we are. Who on earth is going to take us out of these problems? Because all the others have got made to their own mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There's a lady back there. Yes, please. I've been told I'm pushing this too much, so after her, maybe one more, Mr. Malan there. No? And then you, then we'll close, please.
Good evening,
Media.
everyone.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Yes. My name is Albina Hume. I'm Ukrainian, so please excuse me for my accent.
Put your microphone.
I'm wife of the largest, of the private largest rhino breeder in the world, John Hume. Currently, we protect 1,410 rhinos. It's a big job. It takes lots of effort, passion, and faith to keep going, protect these iconic animals for future generations. I'm a witness to the rhino poaching crisis in South Africa. I arrived in this country in 2002, 14 years ago. And until 2008, 2009, we lived a happy life as a family, as myself. I'm talking about my family here in South Africa. Then we had our rhinos poached on the ranch, and we realized that there is a problem. So we started to advocate for a legalized trade in legally produced horn from privately owned rhinos in order to help diminish these illegal activities of poaching. Then we heard about NGOs that came to South Africa claiming or promising to save the rhino. And what I learned, they were not saving the rhino. They were actually trying to drive us, private rhino custodians, away from rhinos. How they can do it, they cannot change the law, but they can make us unsustainable. Because currently, for example, how we protect our rhinos. My husband sold all his private holiday resorts. We have zero income on breeding and protecting rhinos for the world. So we use our private funds with zero income, and all these criminal NGOs keep bullying my husband worldwide using media, even like National Geographic. This is the latest bullying. They're trying to muddle my husband's name. The man who deserves respect for what he's doing for the future of rhinos and for the future of African people, because we are strong advocates to give rights back to African people to become proud rhino custodians, to become owners of their national heritage, to become people who respected in the world, not who bullied. And by the way, it's not about color of the people. African people, those who invest their heart, their soul in this continent, those ones are called African people, especially in South Africa. We are a rainbow nation, and I belong to this nation as well, because I've been here for 14 years. So, not many knows that why South Africa is the champion in rhino conservation. Why? Because it's the only rhino range state that introduced private ownership. And from 1,000 rhinos that we had in 60s, we came to nearly 20,000. I don't know, numbers all the time changes. I don't know exactly the thing, but we made success. The rest of rhino range states lost their rhino populations, and 2 rhino subspecies gone extinct. So while all these NGOs run to save the rhino in our country, in South Africa, they actually, this is a proof that these people have no idea what they're doing. They're driving this species to extinction. And by the way, the strong opposition of trade in legally produced corn, I believe, is not only about rhinos. It's about whole wildlife conservation on African continent. Because let's just see the picture. As soon we prove that with strictly regulated trade in legally produced corn, we actually are saving the species, we eliminating poverty of African people, we help these people who are living on the level of the poverty, instead of becoming poacher, but rather becoming a private rhino custodian. As soon we make this success, we also would then save many other species, elephants, lions, whatever. But currently, NGOs are posing this very humane, peaceful solution in order, I believe, to design more wildlife crisis on African continent, which they're already doing very actively. Now they're already portraying how lions are apparently in a crisis. It's complete rubbish, excuse me. It's not true.
Thank you.
But it's been presented like that. So what I want to say finally that I believe South Africa saved rhinos once, South Africa can do it again. But I don't know how we can get the support. Hopefully, I don't know, God help us. That's the whole, what we can pray. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid I'll have to close here now. I'm under a lot of pressure from every side. So may I just hand over to the CEO of CIC who hosted. I'll hand over to the CEO, then he'll decide, because I'm getting some very nasty stares now. My last point is that this forum was to hear Africa speak. They will not stop here from what I've heard. I think they have been sufficiently encouraged and invigorated to speak every corner of this CITES conference from here on. And gentlemen, thank you very much for all that you have said. You've touched my heart. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ali. A great job done. Thank you all in the panel. Thank you all that you came to this press conference. Thank you all media having been here. Now there is one thing missing. What is going to happen with your voice, with what you have said in this room? Many of it will appear in some media, but I do think that we need to think about how we could report what has been spoken in this room to the plenary up there. And we might be talking about this together with our government representatives on how we can carry the message of this evening into the plenary. Ladies and gentlemen, may I thank the Professional Hunters Association of South Africa. Stan Berger, are you still here? Yes, thank you very much. Taria and Mariana and all who were here supporting us with their communications officer as well. Thank you very much for your assistance. The Department of Environment helping us, setting up the room, setting up the time. Thank you, thank you, thank you. A most successful evening, and we will continue. Thank you.
Great man, great. Every Kenyan and media tell them there is one great man in your country. Do you know what that great man when I meet the MPs from the African Parliament? I said, do you know this man? Because really, you impressed me, and I can see you should have that fire. That should drive our continent. And please, let's make a change in Chinese this time. Let's make an impact. Yes. Please, please.
We ran out of time.